Carl, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for joining me on Inside Albania, albeit virtually.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Now, in your recent speech on the future of Europe, you talked about the need for member states to not only coordinate their foreign policy, but you said there's a need for core European institution on this matter. And I wondered, can you expand a bit on this? And would this or could this include hopefuls such as those countries of the Western Balkans?
Well, I think especially the events of the last couple of months, or actually 2 years, has shown to us how important it is to have a real foreign office, a real foreign minister within the European Union to represent the European Union to the outside world. The different national opinions are just not working in the same way anymore as they should. So I really think that's one institution that we are still missing in the European Union in a very, very important way. I mean, if you take just the last couple of days and you see the events that happened, for example, in the United States, the debate about the support that is necessary for Ukraine. And suddenly we figure out that the United States is saying, okay, we are supporting the Ukraine the biggest, and we have to figure out a way. And currently it's very difficult to find a way forward. The European Union actually has done overall much more financial support to Ukraine than the United States. But that never comes up because we know it because we make the calculation, but it is not the European Union speaking with one voice as they should, and which would make them much more important in the world if they actually would. And I think it's just also very important to have what they always call, the telephone number to call in questions of foreign policy. So we should really have that. Just one vice president who is the spokesman for foreign policy in the framework of the Commission is, in this case, definitely not enough. It is important to have a foreign ministry that is responsible, that basically have to show their responsibility in front of the European Parliament. They should be controlled by the directly elected European Parliament, and that's something we really need. And to your question, whether other countries the countries that are in the application process should be participating in it, I mean, that would be probably taking the second step before the first step. But of course, I have always been a passionate, I would call that, a great European. That means somebody who sees Europe in a great dimension. And therefore, I think it is very important to bind those countries in as far as it is possible at the earliest possible moment.
Do you think this sort of foreign office, I mean, currently we have Josep Borrell, who is sort of the outwards facing voice of the institutions. But, we've seen many times recently that the Council, the Parliament, the Commission are not coordinated. We saw it with Gaza and Israel recently. And then obviously there's criticism of the handling of the Kosovo-Serbia situation with Borrell's office and the EEAS. Would this institution that you envisage sort of supersede that, go beyond that, and maybe seek to correct some of the flaws that we're seeing in the current system?
It would definitely go beyond that, because we have to be clear about one thing, and this is if Europe wants to kind of have a position in the world, wants to have a voice that is actually heard, the different national voices are not going to be it. Mm-hmm. It is going to be the European voice that is necessary to take a point. And for that, we need an institution that is not just some spokesperson in the framework of the Commission doing this. We need a foreign minister. We need a person responsible in that framework to speak for Europe and coordinate, not only coordinate, but actually speaks for Europe. And it is completely normal on a national basis that you have the foreign minister who has to go in front of the national parliament and basically defend his policy. And in the European Union, it would be the same. We have a directly elected European Parliament, and any foreign minister would just have to basically present or it would be controlled by the European Parliament. So it would be a very normal process, a very normal thing to actually do, and a very necessary thing, as we have seen particularly over the last couple of months.
And I think, yes, it could help avoid some of the situations we've seen where perhaps the national politics of a certain individual has interfered in their approach to situations. Definitely. Although I do fear having this one united voice of the European Union is potentially going to be a bit like herding cats, trying to find out what that position is, amongst so many different divergent voices.
It will be very difficult. That's completely clear. And we see with difficulties that some countries are currently presenting in specific cases, whether it's a question of enlargement or whether it's the help for Ukraine or whether it is specific policy questions. And you see that small individual countries actually can block everything on the long term and have to be brought into something. So yes, of course, there is a need to correct some of the policies and some of the systems that the European Union actually has, and create a system where the European Union can speak with one voice, especially in foreign politics.